Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, wherever you might be on the planet. I would like to welcome you to the Africa webinar series. It's time for us to start. I know sometimes there's some technical glitches here and there. So we'll wait for 5 more minutes and then we can begin the webinar today. So please, pardon us, give us 5 more minutes so people could join and we can go ahead. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much all for waiting. Once again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be on the planet. I would like to welcome you to the AFRICER Webinar series. This is one of many webinars that AFRICER will be organizing, and this is brought to you by Eco Amet Solutions. As we are all aware, the theme for today is taking a second look at bio-waste, circular economy in Africa. And we have some of the knowledgeable and experienced people as speakers today to talk about the theme that we have. We would have two speakers. We would have speakers talking about the broader theme and specifically to the topics that we talked about in the invitations. My name is Anderson Iswa, and I will be your host for today. So before we get ahead, I want to say that a few housekeeping things. Please do keep your mics off all the time until such a time that we are back in the plenary and you would like to speak. Also, if you would like to speak when we are here in the plenary, you can use the virtual raise hands and I would notice it. You can also decide to show your video and raise your hands up and I'll acknowledge that as well. Also, as the speakers go ahead to give their presentations, you can put your questions in the chat. We are following all of that and we are monitoring them and we would ask your questions. We have breakout rooms for discussions, and this will be based on what the speakers tell us. We'll explore them into more detail in the various breakout rooms. And again, if you have questions, the moderators or facilitators in the breakout rooms will be taking your questions. If your questions are not answered in the breakout rooms, it will be brought forward to the plenary where I get the opportunity to ask the speakers. We hope that we will be able to answer everyone's question. However, in the unlikely event that happened, we are unable to answer all questions, we would be sending you written responses to your questions. We do hope that this webinar provides the opportunity for you to learn a lot from the speakers on the topic and also to help us interact amongst ourselves and share our knowledge. We are glad that you could come and we are happy that you are here. Okay, so having said that, we would set the ball rolling here with our first activity for the day. And I'll be calling on Mr. David Ewusi-Mensah to give us the opening remarks for the webinar. David, if you're ready, take over.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I will quickly share my screen and okay. So hello everyone and welcome to, can everyone hear me? Anderson, can you just confirm that?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. All right, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to taking a second look at bio-waste circular economy in Africa. My name is David Ewusi-Mensah, and I'm here to give you a very brief background on what we're going to do today and welcome you formally to the beginning of this webinar series. So this webinar is brought to you by Eco Amet Solutions. It's an environmental consulting and services company in Ghana, and our operations actually it's mainly into three main folds: environmental services and environmental consulting, mainly in wastewater consulting projects. We have our constructed wetland projects that we are doing for large scale and small scale applications. We also have environmental engineer education and awareness services, where we do use different platforms like blogs, podcasts, and other things to reach out to people and educate them. We also liaise with sustainable and eco-friendly companies to undertake environmental projects as well. So AFRICER, AFRICER is one of the initiatives that we just started. You can find details of this on our website, www.ecoametsolutions.com/AFRICER project. And we also recently recorded an episode on the Green Living Chats, and you can also log on to that to find more details about that. But AFRICER, which is African Eco-RESEARCH Reports, is actually a project that we're using to gather circular economy research data across the continent on different issues. And of course, at the end of this webinar, you will see a lot of some of these issues that we'll be tackling. And our goal is to share this data informally and formally to educate the public. And the main goal also is to bridge the gap between the paper policies that has been written across the continent and its practical application on the ground. So there are several areas that we'll be tackling within the circular economy space, and I hope that you'll be able to join us in the other series as we go. So what is circular economy in Africa, and how far has it gone, right? So we know that originally we had a regenerative ecosystem, but through our systems and operations whereby we just make, use, and just dispose the things that we consume, we have all seen the negative impacts that is having on the environment, because naturally the regenerative ecosystem can actually regenerate itself. So let's say if you pour water that you use from your kitchen into the drains, and it ends up in the river. The river has its own natural way to regenerate and take out the organic matter that you have used from your kitchen into the water. But because of the continuous use and population increase and so many other things, now we are slowly acting too much to overtake the Earth's regenerative capacity. So as we are seeing this negative impact, one of the things that we have come up with, not me, but generally the concept that has come through is circular economy that can help us to stop these activities and reduce the impact that we have on the environment. And according to the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, they came up with this infographic that actually explains this initiative very well. And it says that circular economy is to reduce the environmental impacts that we have on the environment, to minimize waste, and to actually help us to generate income from the activities that we do, and also to reduce the resources that we depend on. And how to do this is first to come up with green products that are less toxic to the environment, has long life, and also are recyclable. And throughout this cycle, we can actually have greener ways of producing them, especially when it comes to using resources and also depending on energy, using more sustainable energies. And this will help us to have better services when it comes to products that we use, which has extended life span. And also we can help collect the end of life of every product. So let's say if you just drink juice, the bottle that you're going to use, let's help to collect them at the end of their lives. And also we can separate them for reuse, and we can use them as resources again. So this counter attacks the make, use, and disposal method that we used to have in the system. So how does circular economy look in Africa? Though circular economy is an emerging concept in Africa, we have to know that it has been part of our lives for so many years. And this reflects in the materials that we were using. It reflects in the recycling methods that we used to use. That is part of actually our culture. And actually, if you look at the history of most of the African countries, they actually used to use less materials. So this system has already been with us. So how come we are now adapting some of these things? I've been having these conversations recently, and you realize that people have tagged certain materials to be fancy. Like we in Ghana, example, we don't want to use the old buildings that we see in the villages, which are made of mud. Even though they can keep the rooms cold, that we do not need air conditions, but we now want the concrete buildings which look more fancy, and we call these places like a 5-star hotel, we call this 4-star hotel, but you never see a building that is made of simple mud that has been tagged or rated a 5-star. So we have to educate ourselves and also change the standards that we have, and also set proper policies that will help us to adapt these things, because we can actually use circular economy as a tool to solve some of the social and economic and social and ecological challenges that we have in the community. So though there are several misconceptions about circular economy, there are a lot of institutions and companies that are doing their best to change the narrative, showing circular economy examples and projects within the continent that are actually working. So I just put some of these here that we can use them as example. You can follow the Eco Africa and news on YouTube, especially. You can get a lot of these reports showing weekly. There is Footprint Africa that is actually producing circular economy related projects examples within the continent, I think in a year, and you'll be hearing a lot of them on the Eco Amet Solutions Green Living Chat podcast. Some of these misconceptions, you can hear us talking about them on the Green Living Chat podcast, and you can find this on all podcast platforms, and feel free to log in to understand this. We cannot talk about circular economy in Africa without talking about the African Circular Economy Network. And this is one platform that is bringing all these case studies and promoting sustainability on the continent. So on today's webinar, taking a second look at bio-waste circular economy in Africa, we have our guest here, which Anderson has already talked about. And so I hope that this segment is going to be very educative to you. And thank you so much to our team who made this arrangement possible. So at the end of this webinar, we want to equip you in such a way that you can initiate a new move. Be the new guy in your community who wants to change something and who wants to think that my food waste, I can change it and make a new move towards it. We want you to be equipped to educate others on which methods we can use to take a second look at bio-waste from the kitchen, from the hotels, from wherever it is. And we want to also equip you that you can start a business on your own, and also, of course, with the help of AFRICER and also from the guests all around, and as well as the resources that I shared earlier. So thank you so much, and I hope that you can have an amazing time. You can reach us on our social media platforms and our website, or shoot us an email at info@ecoametsolutions.com, and we'll be super excited to have a conversation with you and make progress in this circular economy contribution on the continent. Over to you, Anderson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. That was great. Thank you for the overview, and thank you for sharing those resources with us as well. Okay, so next we going straight into our first presentation for the day, and the title is Diverting Bio-Waste from Landfills into Resources. That will be presented by Basil Amuzu-Safoji. A little bit about Basil. So Basil Amuzu-Safoji is an environmental advisor at Fortescue Future Industries. He's also the principal managing consultant at TG Innovation Systems. Basil holds a PhD in renewable energy and innovation studies. Dr. Amuzu-Safoji's main research interests include sustainability of internationally funded renewable energy projects in Africa, sustainability transitions, and innovation diffusion. So, if Dr. Amuzu-Safoji is ready, please take over.
Yeah, hello to everyone. Many thanks for making the time to join us today for this webinar. As Anderson stated, my name is Basil Amuzu-Safoji. I am a researcher, and of course, my main research interests are in sustainability transitions, innovation diffusion, and the implementation of renewable energy projects in Africa, mainly looking at the sustainability of internationally funded projects in Africa. Yeah, as he rightly said, I am an environmental advisor at Fortescue Future Industries. However, it is important that I indicate that I do not represent Fortescue Future Industries in this webinar, and nothing I say, of course, reflects the views of Fortescue Future Industries. I'm here as a researcher and also a principal consultant at TG Innovation Systems. So today, my presentation is titled Diverting Biowaste from Landfills into Resource. And during the course of the presentation, I'll give some background information. I'll talk a little bit about my research in the space. Then I'll present a couple of case studies in Africa. Then I will discuss challenges that I'm more than happy to delve into when we break out into the various sessions. Yes, so to start, I think it is crucial or important to mention that the three core principles underpinning the circular economy are mainly the elimination of waste and pollution, and keeping products or materials continuously in use, and finally the regeneration of natural system, which I think David has touched on, with a particular focus on using renewable resources. And these three core principles are seen in both the biological and technical cycle of the circular economy. You agree with me that the biological cycle mainly involves the decomposition and reproduction of biomass resources, whereas the technical cycles, as we know, I'm sure you guys, most of you have heard of the multiple R framework, which focuses on the reusing, the reducing, recycling, and it goes to the redesigning and the remanufacturing of products. Yeah, so this diagram is the infamous butterfly diagram produced by Ellen MacArthur and her foundation. Yeah, this foundation has done an amazing job when it comes to raising awareness for the circular economy and of course documenting real world case studies. So I think it's important we comment Ellen and her foundation for the work they've done. In this diagram, you will see that on the left, you see the biological cycle on your left and the technical cycle on your left. For the purposes of this webinar, we will focus on the biological cycle, and you can see that the cycle mainly starts from the extraction of the biomass feedstock, which either goes to the anaerobic digestion to produce biogas, or it goes to the natural system where it regenerates, produces nutrients that is fed back into our farms or livestock in order to produce like crops for us. Then the cycle continues or repeats itself. Yeah, for the benefits of our attendees that aren't very familiar with this subject, biomass is mainly derived from living organisms such as plants, animals, and microorganisms, and a substantial amount of the renewable energy used in the world come from biomass. And of course, depending on the type of energy you want, there are different processes this biomass goes through in order to generate the energy that you want. Mainly, we have the gasification, the digestion, which we mentioned earlier as the anaerobic digestion, and we also have the fermentation as well. Some examples of biomass feedstock, as you can see, we have the dedicated energy crops. An example is jatropha, which is used to produce biodiesel. We have agricultural residue, mainly farm waste, forest residues, which is sometimes called fuel wood, which is used to produce charcoal and whatnot. And we have wood processing residue and municipal solid waste. Yeah, just to dive into the facts and figures in terms of research in the space, as an circular economy in Africa, there's this recent study by Mutezo and Mulopo, which they sort of made a systematic review of all energy transition or sustainability transition efforts across the continent. And from their study, they found out there was limited data to support the thesis that the energy transitions or the sustainability transition we are seeing across the continent is championed by the circular economy. Basically, they did not see the core principles of the circular economy in all the effort we are making to transition into a more sustainable future. So be it the numerous renewable energy projects we are seeing across the continent or the ambitious climate change targets, they are not necessarily driven by the circular economy, meaning we are not closing the loop. It is interesting to know that solid waste of food waste contributes significantly to climate change, and it's estimated that it contributes about 8% of greenhouse gas emission. So there's a key debate within researchers that is the green economy, a circular economy. I'm more than happy to have this discussion when we get into the breakout section, because I'm very, very sure that people will have different views, and yeah, I'll be happy to know what they want to say. However, you all agree with that biomass definitely creates the link between the green economy and the circular economy. An interesting aspect of the bioenergy space that hasn't attracted lots of attention is producing hydrogen energy from biomass. In 2015, myself and a couple of colleagues at Ohio University, we conducted this desktop research that sought to examine or assess Africa's hydrogen energy potential from forest residue and agricultural residue. And in this study, we assumed only 30% of this biomass is available for hydrogen production. And of course, we know hydrogen gas is the purest form of energy in the world and has the highest energy content as compared to any other energy resource that we have. So meaning the energy that is available for us to produce from hydrogen is significantly high. And these are some of the results from the study. Like Africa has the potential to produce a total of about 350,000 gigawatt hours of hydrogen energy. And when it comes to West Africa, more than 100% of the annual electricity consumption can be displaced by the hydrogen produced from these biomass resources. So I will go on to just give a brief overview of some real-world case studies of the bio-waste circular economy we have in Africa. In Kenya, this company called the Safi Organics, they go to rice farms to collect the rice husk. They carbonize it, they send it to their processing factory, then they sort of add some fortified organic material to it. They package it into 50 kg sacks, then they send it back to the farm where the farmers use it to fertilize their soil. And according to the farmers, they've been able to increase their yields by over 100%. And it's interesting. This very simple process is significantly helping farmers do away with inorganic fertilizers and also help regenerate their natural system and increase their yield. There's another example in Kenya, whereby this is just a small farm, but they have a movable hen coop, such that they allow a small herd of cows to graze ahead of the hen coop, like for instance, 10 days. So when the cows poop, after 10 days, the cow dung generates maggot and whatnot. Then they move the hen coop to feed on the maggots, which is an alternative source of protein, is cheap, and is high in proteins as well. So in other farms where the chicken poop may be a burden, this time around the poop is used to regenerate the soil, the grasses will grow, and the sheep or the cow will come back to graze on it. Then the system continues again. The last example I have here is it's a 1 acre farm run by one Dr. Emma. She's actually a veterinarian and an entrepreneur as well. So she has chickens, pigs, fish, a banana plantation, and cow. And the waste from each segment or each enterprise is a resource in the other. It's very interesting. The concept is very similar to the previous examples I've shown. As you can see in the diagram here, the cow dung or the fecal matter from the pigs is allowed to produce some worms, which is then used to feed the fishes. The cow dung can be sent to the biogas digester to produce gas for cooking in the kitchen, or when they allow the cow dung to generate the worms, which is used to feed the fish, the worm humus is then used to fertilize a banana plantation. Then, as you can see in the bottom, the nutrient-rich water from the fish pond is used to water the plants. And this is a very simple system. It's just a 1 acre farmland, but seems to make so much sense. And this goes to show us that the circular economy is not a myth. It is actually happening, and people are sort of making some money or saving money using this system. But then again, of course, like any new innovation, it has its own challenges, right? So I'll quickly dive into the challenges. So the main thing here is costs, and to an extent, the unproven business models with some circular economy models, right? The construction or installation of these closed-loop systems are often beyond the purchasing power of many African households. For instance, the construction of biogas digesters only make economic sense when it's done at a large scale, maybe for schools or farms, right? And however, due to the limited expertise in the sector, maintenance is also high. So usually you see that even in this large-scale facilities like schools or farms, after a number of years, or 2 or 3, these systems break down and they are unable to repair them. So you see that a significant amount of this closed-loop system in Africa are often funded by donor organizations. The second one is the mismatch between theory and practice. And I think David touched on it briefly. All over Africa, especially in rural communities, there are numerous examples of mundane activities that have the core principles of the circular economy. Unfortunately, these practices are often associated with poverty or labeled as primitive. Hence, they do not get the necessary publicity or public support. For example, for a very long time now, Ghanaians, when they go buy food, they serve the food in leaves, right? But up to 2000, from the early 2000s till now, you see people prefer to have their food served in takeaway packs and plastic bags. Now we find ourselves in a situation whereby all these things are single use. They can't be recycled, and they are clogging our waterways, which is a serious problem. Another challenge with the circular economy is the variability in the quality of waste that we have. Resource recovery is largely influenced by the physical and chemical characteristics of the waste stream. For instance, right, the solids concentration in fecal sludge ranges from 12 grams to 52 grams. This range is too wide, such that it makes it difficult for you to adequately forecast the resource recovery in your closed system. And last but not the least is the uncertainty due to the contextual factors in implementation. What I've identified is that many people that want to adopt closed loop system, for instance, biogas digester systems, cannot really reconcile between the benefits and also the financial commitments. For instance, in a household in Accra, where maybe there are 5 people in the house, they want to install a biogas system to generate biogas to power their house. Unfortunately, the way the technology is and the amount of fecal matter or waste they generate in the house won't be enough to produce enough gas to power the house. So in such system, it doesn't really make sense to sort of install a biogas. And someone will argue that why won't you construct the digester to help treat the fecal matter or the waste that is generated? However, for that particular person or that household, the aim is to produce electricity, not necessarily to, how do you call it, to treat the waste. And another issue too is okay, I think I just touched on that. Yes. So the main challenge now here is that in most cases, it makes sense, or it's cheaper to go by the linear economic model where you just dispose of your waste as opposed to investing money to install or construct a closed loop system which doesn't necessarily fit the purpose or meet your needs. Yeah. I look forward to listening to what our attendees or participants will have to say in the breakout session. Thanks once again for listening to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amuzu Safaji. That was very informative and a lot of insight in there. Thank you very much. I hope that we will take up what you've said so far in the breakout rooms and dissect them more. And I know that
Yeah.
you will be visiting the breakout rooms as well. So once
I'll do that.
People have some specific questions for you, they can then ask you and you provide a response to them.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you so much, and thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome, and it's good to have you.
Yep.
Okay, so we move to the section where we get our first breakout rooms. And just a little note for those who joined a little bit later, in the breakout rooms, we would have facilitators who will be starting the conversations with you, engaging you with your questions and all of that. If you have any more questions, please put it in the chats and they will ask the questions, or they will bring the questions here if the questions are not answered in the breakout rooms. So please engage. What we want you to do is for you to talk about the topic. It's for you to share your knowledge. It's for you to tell us what you've learned, areas that you think people should invest more in, the processes, the approaches that should be used in terms of diverting waste from the landfills. Okay, so we'll go into our breakout rooms right away. Let's see here. Okay. All right, so we would have about 15 minutes in the breakout rooms. And yeah, starting from now. If in case you have any challenges joining your room, please let me know and I will be able to help you out here. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, there we go. Okay, see you in a bit. Thank you all very much. Sorry if I cut anybody off. I'm a nice guy, but I just have to keep to my time. Okay, otherwise we're not going to get done here. So sorry if I did that, but I hope that you did enjoy the breakout room sessions. I attended both breakout rooms and I was hearing some very good information, some good questions. And I know some people are new to the whole circular economy idea. And I heard explanations, I heard answers being provided to their questions. So that is good. Thank you. It's just started. We're going to have more fun. We have a second speaker coming in, and we'll have another breakout room, and then we'll have a plenary discussion where I get to ask some of the questions that have not been answered yet, and some of the questions that you provided in the chats to the various facilitators in the breakout rooms. However, we want to keep our health going. We want to take a little kind of a break, about 10 minutes. But before then, there's a little poll that we have here. We just want to hear from you, where you are joining us from. We also want to hear from you what you are into and all of that, because we want to get a sense of how you heard about webinar, so that in future, when we are planning our webinars, we are able to plan effectively, right? So please take a minute to answer these questions. I'm going to launch the first one. So the first poll is 2 questions, and the second poll will be 2 questions, but that would be later on after the other speaker has finished his presentation. Okay. Can everyone see the questions on the screen? Okay, yeah. Please do. Great. Please do answer them for me. Okay, we got people answering. Yeah, great, great, great. Great. Okay, so 11 people voted. Just a little bit of, okay, so can you see what we got? Okay, that's great. Let's stop sharing this and I'll go to the second poll. And here we go, another minute, please. Great, see people voting here, providing responses, that's great. So great, we had 11 people again. Let's share the results for you to see. Okay, so that's great. Thank you very much. So it's 8:04 a.m. Paramount time, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes. So say 8:14 thereabout. Let's take our health break, and I would say that please get up, stretch, walk around a bit. We know sitting too much and also being behind the screen is not very helpful for our health. So please stretch a bit, and then we get back here in 10 minutes. So I'll see you in a bit.
are far different from
Hello and welcome back. I hope you were able to get up, stretch a little bit, and to get ready for the second part of the webinar, because we're going to move right into it. The topic for the next presentation is making biogas a business and the benefits of aid-free business, small and large-scale businesses in Africa. And we have Mr. Eduardo Federici to give this presentation. Eduardo Federici's professional background is in communication and sustainable development. He is currently the marketing and communications manager at B Energy. Over the past year, he has designed several support tools for new biogas entrepreneurs and has been working on developing B Energy's social business model. Mr. Federici holds a BA degree in communications from the University of Greenwich, London, and then MA in leadership for sustainability at Malmö University in Sweden. Mr. Federici, we're happy to have you here. Please take over.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Anderson, excuse me, I'm not able to share my screen yet. Maybe you need to give me.
Yeah, we have to give you a co-host.
Yeah,
great. Yes, let me do that right away. Well, yeah. Frank, if you're on, could you help me out with that? Okay, yes, there you go.
Perfect. Got it. Okay, thank you. Okay, ready to start? I hope everyone can hear me fine.
Loud and clear.
Nice, perfect. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone, for the introduction and for taking the time to join us today. And I'm gonna dive directly into it. I'm marketing and communication manager at B Energy, and we are a social business based in Germany, in Cologne. But we mainly work in Africa and Latin America, but mainly Africa. Our technology will be presented in this presentation, and also I will tell you a little bit about how we fit within the circular economy and what contribution we think we can give. But let's get started. So, one second. Okay, perfect. So a circular economy, it's based on the principle of designing out waste and pollution, keeping products and material in use, and regenerating natural systems. So this is it's a very simple definition, but I would like you to focus on this designing out waste and pollution. And we really think, even though we work with waste, so for us, waste is a great resource. We know that we need to reduce waste in the first place. And what we do is basically it's to moderate, to mitigate the result of what whenever waste happens, whenever it takes place. And so in the form of organic material, we have a technology that can basically help you recover some energy from it. So I just wanted to make sure we are all on the same boat and say that it's very, very important to prevent waste from happening. But when it happens, we need to also have the technology to basically to work with it. Okay, so how do we? Excuse me, I'm just taking a little bit of time to change slides here. Perfect. Okay, so I will just tell you a little bit about how our biogas system works. Even though I think most of you are fairly familiar with this already, so okay, we have organic waste here, which is basically can be animal manure, so cow manure, pig manure, or we can have, for example, agricultural waste or food waste, even human feces, and we mix all of this organic waste with water. We insert it into what we call a drum or a bucket, basically, and mixed with water, it will flow directly into the biogas digester, which in our case, it's a bag digester, it's called. So it's simply like a gas-tight bag that we can basically fill with substrate. It's very easy to set up and maintain. Biogas, I'm not going to go like deep into this. I'm mainly talking about the business opportunities offered by B Energy, but as most of you know, it's produced by microbes that are really small guys. You can see them up here in the green box. The other one, it's a human hair, so you can see how tiny they are. And basically, microbes eat up the substrate and produce this flammable gas, which is biogas. And the reason why we like biogas so much is because it's smokeless, it's affordable, and accessible to everybody, and has this characteristic blue flame that you see over here on the right-hand side in the picture. The reason why we think biogas can also be like a real solution, and why we work with it, it's because it has the power to tackle a really big health crisis. This map shows like a breakdown of the different countries, and you can see the red areas are the ones where there is a higher number of people dying from polluting cooking energies, which in this case is mainly like firewood and charcoal. Anyway, this is a big crisis that biogas could really solve. So this is one of the reasons why we think biogas can be a great solution. So we said we take the organic waste, we mix it with water, we throw it in the biogas digester, and then comes out the biogas. But there is another product, and Dr. Basil has already introduced this before, which is bioslurry, is the second product coming out of our biogas digester. What is bioslurry? It's a great organic fertilizer. You can see it in the picture. It comes out of the digester in a liquid state, and it can be basically applied in your vegetable garden or field, and it really increases yields and improves soil fertility as well. But again, the presentation before I expressed this in a great way, so I'm not gonna talk too much about it. And here we have some pictures and some options for you to use bioslurry. On the top right, we can see it again in the like liquid as it comes out of the biogas digester. We can see it composted over here, collected in some little holes here in the ground, or even dried. Drying it is possibly the worst option because you have quite a loss of nutrients, especially nitrogen, which is quite good for plants, but still it's a good option for selling bioslurry. So as we said, we have these two products coming out of a biogas digester, which is biogas, it's bioslurry, but then there is something else that I think only BioEnergy offers at the moment, and I really hope more companies can offer in the upcoming years. It's income opportunities, real income opportunities. Until now, biogas digesters have been mainly used to produce cooking gas and bioslurry for the owner of the biogas digester. But thanks to our backpack, which has been developed by our managing director, Katrin Put in Ethiopia, around 10 years ago, we are now able to store biogas, transport it over like short distances, and this made available to basically also sell biogas. I'll tell you a little bit more about it. Now we got into the business opportunities side of things, and just gonna start off with a quote from Mohammed Yunus. The difference between the rich and poor is opportunity, and this is what we hope to offer to many people in the upcoming years across the African continent. But let me start with a little bit of an introduction to our technology. Don't want to make advertising, but it's just to show you what I'm talking about. So we have, first of all, the biogas digester. I told you about it earlier. It's a bag digester, and it produces around, for example, with 20 kilograms of manure and water, you can produce up to 2 to 4 hours of cooking energy, quite efficient. It's a semi-mobile structure, meaning that it can be emptied and moved around if you need to. And it comes in 4 different sizes, ranging from 2 cubic meters to 6.5 cubic meters. And it's quite easy to set up and maintain compared to, for example, underground digesters that you might be familiar with. It's like a semi-mobile structure, we call it. And this is the real like flagship of BioEnergy, which is the B-Pack, or big NB storage. You can see it here. So this backpack here contains 2 to 4 hours of cooking gas, depending on your cooking habits. And then we have also bigger storage bags that are you see in the picture below. These ones here can contain up to 80 hours worth of cooking gas. But the first one is our most popular choice. And then this is quite safe. Many of you might ask that, like gas in a backpack on your shoulders, like how that doesn't sound right. It does. It has been, of course, tested both in Ethiopia and certified also in Germany. And it has like a 3 to 4 layers technology, meaning that it's quite hard to pierce. It can always be, of course, pierced with a knife or something, but it's quite resistant. And since biogas is not under pressure in the backpack, if the backpack ends up on an open fire, for instance, it's not going to explode on your shoulders, but it's going to kind of like inflate and slowly burn. Quite boring to watch, but if you want, we have some videos about this. And also, this is BioEnergy patented technology. Biogas stove, I'm going to be quite quick here, but it's a modular stove, very efficient, 53-55%, which that leaves your pots clean compared to like firewood and charcoal. Also, patented technology in Africa. But this is where I wanted to come to, and it's our business model. And now I will explain in a little bit why we chose this exact model. But for now, it's useful for everybody who wants to start off a biogas business from nothing. We currently offer BioEnergy 4 roles. The one of the distributor, which are the people that import our technology in their country or region and then sell it. And then we have installers that are the ones who maintain the technology and install it. Digester users that are the ones who own the biogas digester and produce biogas, and backpack users who are the ones who simply buy biogas in backpack and use it for cooking. And we start right from the backpack users. Here they are. I just want to show you these two pictures. Of course, we have like a bunch more documents available for you to look at, but this is our idea. This is how it works. You have a site where you can basically produce where the digester users, so where there is a biogas digester and where gas is produced. And then in this case, we have a little child who is simply purchasing a backpack full of gas, taking it home to his house, which is quite close. And then he gives it to his mom. His mom puts it into this kind of like frame, and she applies a small weight on it. This is actually enough to have like a really good pressure. I mean, to have a good flame, it's quite enough. And then she gets cooking. She starts cooking. Very simple. It's definitely lighter than firewood, for example, to carry this. And this one here usually lasts a family 1 to 2 or 3 days. Yeah, let's say 1 to 3 days, depending really on how many people there are there. Next role, the digester user. Let's dive into this. So we have basically, usually digester users are farmers or people that have always access to a substrate, meaning, as I said earlier, food waste or manure. In this case, we have these guys here who have quite a lot of manure, a B-energy digester, and they're just like throwing the manure into this drum again, and then the substrate is going to go into the digester, where the microbes are going to do the job, and they will pump up these slowly these backpacks. As I said before, 20 kilograms of cow manure can fill up one of these ones, one of the backpacks. And then people, as you said so earlier, they just come, pick up the backpacks and bringing them back to their house. The benefits, of course, it's continuous. You always have access to renewable cooking energy if you have a plant, and you can always access a high quality fertilizer. But the most important thing, as we said, is that you can actually like sell these. Like you can sell both, which presents like actually an opportunity to make some money. Installer, this one here is a very, very important role. They are our biogas technicians, and we have developed a way to train them remotely, basically. I will show you how now. But yes, they are the ones who really maintain and install biogas systems all around. And how does it work? So here you have the example of Musa. He's an installer from Mali. It was when we met him, he was a student. He took our online training, which is basically a 1-day theoretical course all online, and then he took a practical training to basically like learn how to install a biogas system, and now he's installing biogas systems in Mali. And that is it. Practical training can be substituted by simply installing a biogas system successfully, meaning that you need to prove that the biogas system works. And then with the theoretical training, you can basically start working with the energy as an installer. As an installer, you earn, as I said earlier, from the installation of systems, their maintenance, the sale of accessories like backpacks and stoves, and also you basically train other installers if you want to, and if you're very experienced, so you can also make some money by doing this. And this really tackles the issue of lack of maintenance of biogas systems in Africa, which is quite of an issue. And the tool to do this, the thing that really makes it possible, is our biogas app, which has a basic an installation guide, like a step-by-step installation guide that installers can access, and basically they can also take pictures of the installation steps. So for example, you set up the backpack and you take a picture and you send it to, it's automatically sent to us in Germany. So we have the chance to check step by step whether what they did was correct. And basically, if they have some questions or if they did some mistakes, we can let them know remotely. So this is really a big difference. makes really the difference to be able to do this remotely. And we also have a biogas calculator, which allows you to calculate the viability of the biogas system in a certain region or area, and many other little features. And now the distributor, which is the last role, they are the people, as I said, who import biogas systems in stocks usually, and then sell them to users. And with the help of the installers, they basically get the product delivered always with a high quality. Here we have distributors, some pictures, and how does a distributor become a distributor, where they start off as normal people. Usually they are entrepreneurs already or interested in that type of career, and they take also the same online training. That's kind of the start for everybody to learn about biogas. And then they take a 3-day training where we teach them a little bit of everything, ranging from technology installation to the actual business model, how it works, how you can deliver like high quality always. And we also teach them a little bit about the social business. I don't really have time to go into details with this, but it's also a big part of what we do. And then they become basically distributors. They can open their own company like these guys, and they have quite a lot of freedom to choose like pricing strategies and to further develop our technology, translate our resources in local language and other stuff. The benefits of being a distributor is that we always channel orders to them. So they get like customers from us. They have unlimited access to the app I told you about earlier, and a bunch of other documents, installation manuals and stuff like this. They have access to training and promotional material, our website, and they get support from Germany, which is also quite useful sometimes. If you guys want, if anybody is interested, or if you have a friend, we have an upcoming distributor training in October. So if anyone wants to know, maybe you can let me know and I can sign you up. Regarding the market now, this is the quite interesting part. So I told you a little bit like what we do, but I need to tell you also why we do it the way we do it. So basically we have this graph. It's a little bit old, but you can see that in sub-Saharan Africa, 80% of the per capita consumption of energy goes into the cooking energy, which is like an incredible amount. And so this means like quite a lot of opportunity for biogas entrepreneurs. The market potential, it's also there. We have, again, this one here is a little bit old, but it still makes a lot of sense, because in 2010, there was this forecast that in 2020, the household spending in sub-Saharan Africa, in Africa would have doubled, and it actually did. So it went from $20 billion to $40 billion. So there is an increased need for energy, cooking energy. There's a big demand, and you can really like use this as a biogas entrepreneur. We have a little problem though, I have to be honest with you, which is this the other players in the market. We consider ourselves as local biogas entrepreneurs, but I don't know how familiar you are with biogas. I think Dr. Basil also mentioned this earlier. There are a lot of most historically, biogas has been implemented through projects or either national biogas programs or projects financed by Western NGOs or other type of organizations. Anyway, has never been a real business as you will see it. So it's has never been a professionalized sector. Has always been conducted in projects, and this has caused some problems. Of course, these organizations start off with the right foot of helping people, but often they cause something which we call market distortion. What happens here is that if you're a Western development aid organization and you give out free products, then us local entrepreneurs or our partners mainly get penalized, because if you give out free stuff, then people won't buy them, quite obvious. This is a problem for us at the moment. And the biogas technology also has a quite bad reputation. I think this has also been mentioned in the previous presentation. I just give you the example of Ethiopia, where there have been, I think we are now at the 4th national biogas program, and 58% of the installed biogas plants are still not operational. So this means that if your neighbor has a biogas system, you see it not working, you are definitely not going to buy a biogas system from a company that wants to sell it, because the reputation of the technologies, it's kind of yeah, it's low, and this is our problem. I mean, we talk to our customers and they say, hey, I have like a neighbor that has a system and hasn't been working in years. And most of the problem comes from technical maintenance, because these projects usually have a limited amount of time to act. And maybe it works, the biogas system works for 1 year, but after 1 year, you don't have like a service in place to take care of these biogas systems, and they do need to be taken care of. They do need to be maintained, and then they just stop working at some point. So this is another problem, and there is another like more of an ethical issue, which is the way the development aid industry has kind of markets this type of fundraisings, and we don't really like share this. We think it's a little bit undignifying, and we prefer to we want to sell biogas as something which is valuable and cool and for everybody, not for poor people. We don't, and our slogan, for example, is biogas for trendsetters, because it's true. Like if you start using biogas technology, you are actually a trendsetter. You're producing cooking energy in probably one of the most sustainable ways you can. You can. So we really want to remarket and rebrand this technology and this resource. So this is us. We are local biogas entrepreneurs. And we are actually advocating for, we are trying to bring as many organizations as possible together and to basically advocate for a change into the way biogas is handled and implemented. We don't want to, we would like to see biogas be professionalized and be handled by businesses, not by NGOs, because I think looking at the numbers, even though of course the purpose, the initial purpose, the idea is good behind it, but like free stuff is not being taken care of. For biogas, this approach simply doesn't work. So we want to change this. If you guys want to know more about this, we can also talk and meet up, and we really want to change the way biogas is looked at.
Right.
And that's it. So this is the conclusion. I just want to leave you with like a final remark of how waste can become business opportunity, renewable cooking energy, and organic fertilizer. Thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you very much, Eduardo. That's a lot of information, a lot of insights there. So we'll be going to breakout rooms, but before we do that, Eduardo, is there a cost to the online training? Can you briefly answer that?
Yeah, it's €59.50. So it's around like 5 hours of video content and some quizzes, and at the end of it, you get a certificate basically. So it's quite affordable. We make it affordable on purpose. Okay,
and that's 59.50 euros,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
I can share the registration link in the chat later if it's okay for you guys.
Yeah, you can do that later on. That'll be great.
Perfect.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Very welcome.
Yeah, that's a very great presentation, but very insightful as well. We will be moving to breakout rooms to discuss this briefly a bit more, and then we'll come back to the plenary where we'll be asking the speakers questions that we've gathered so far from the webinar. So let's do our breakout room again. And yes, you have facilitators there as well. And if you have any questions, please do let the facilitators know. If the questions don't get answered, it comes back to the plenary and I would ask them, and hopefully the speakers are able to respond to it. Okay, so I will see everyone in a short while. Still see a couple of people here. Two. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Sorry to cut you off once again. It's the time factor. We have to make sure that we are within. Okay. So yeah, I joined the breakout rooms, and I know that you are asking some good questions, and you're getting some responses to them as well. I'm just hoping that everybody is learning something new. And for those who already know stuff about this, you are deepening your knowledge and understanding of the issues regarding bio-waste as well as the circular economy. So we'll be having a bigger plenary discussion, and I have a couple of questions to ask the speakers, and I would also open it up to participants to ask questions that they have or comes to mind, which they haven't already put in the chat or submitted to the facilitators. Before we do that, I just want us to do our second poll quickly, and then we'll move straight ahead into the discussions. Okay, so please take a few seconds to get this poll done. Okay. Okay, here we go. This is yes, no, so quick for us. Okay, people responding, that's great. Okay, 10 more seconds here. Okay, here we go. Okay, well, I'll share it briefly for you to have a look at it. Okay, go back to the last question. Poll here. Yeah. Can we all see that? What is your current role? Okay, great. A few more seconds to go. Okay, keep going. Okay, just about 5 seconds here. Okay, here we go. Okay, briefly, okay. All right, thank you all very much for participating in the poll. This gives us a lot of information to help plan the next webinars that will be upcoming. All right, so now the bigger questions in a bigger room, not in the breakout rooms anymore. And I would urge the speakers to be as concise as possible with their responses so we can have a lot more questions in and also be within the time limits. So my first question would go to Basil. So one question that came in was, what are the incentives that are needed to help drive change? And it's in two parts. The first one is regards to the change about diverting our organics, our bio-waste from landfills. And the second has to do with the circular economy model. So any responses for us, Basil?
Yeah, I think, yeah, in one of the breakout sessions, someone asked this question. Of course, I indicated earlier that I am very much interested in internationally funded renewable energy projects in Africa, right? So of course, most of these projects are donor funded projects. And although we've had so many renewable energy projects in Africa, the energy deficit is still glaring, right? It's significantly huge. So what is the problem with donor-funded project? Aid is not helping us. Aid is not helping us. I give one example, right? With the adoption of mobile phones in Africa, we virtually sort of leapfrog the landline system. So many houses didn't have landlines at home, and they just went to buying mobile phones. There were no incentives for the adoption of that technology. Another example is the adoption of the mobile money, or M-Pesa, which was spearheaded by Kenyans. There wasn't any incentive for that. It just made economic sense that people adopt these technologies. Same is going to apply for the circular economy as well, or any sustainable technology we want to adopt as a people. We need to identify sensible business models and identify windows of opportunities for these technologies to thrive. The key parameters I was talking about are, first, the geographical location, secondly, the key stakeholders, and thirdly, the scale. If we get these three things right, if we get the right mix, we will not need incentives for the circular economy to thrive. We just need to identify the appropriate geographical location to implement this project. As I was saying, there are already existing systems that provide the same services, right? So how do we disentangle them? It's going to be very, very difficult to disentangle this system because there are logged in investment already. Unless the stakeholders in this system want to change is going to be very, very difficult or impossible, right? So we have to get the right geographical location where the already existing system virtually don't exist. And also we get the right stakeholders who need these services. Then we get the right skill at which we want to implement this project. If we get this things right, we don't need incentives.
Okay.
To make it happen.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So it's more like we working ourselves, identify things on our own, and trying to have the goal, the aim, the motivation to get things done. That's what I from what he's saying. That's great. And Eduardo, while you already have a connection in the chat, Noah is saying that he will be happy to introduce you to the Ugandan market. So there you go. There's a question for you here. Someone wants to know the lifespan of the biogas system that B Energy has.
Yeah, so it's still a bag digester, meaning that it's made of plastic, extremely resistant plastic, but still plastic. So it has a lifespan that can range between 10 and 20 years, depending on how you use it and where to place it. The worst enemy of plastic is sun. So if placed under, usually we provide also like a greenhouse to protect the digester itself from sun. But if it comes to contact with sun for quite some time, it might be damaged. But let's say if you keep it as we advise you to, it should last between, let's say 13, 15 years on average.
Okay, thanks. So I have a personal question there. With the plastic that houses the biogas, do you have a way to dispose of it once its lifespan is exhausted?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. I mean, the product itself and the plastic, it's not as circular as it's not very circular. So it has to be disposed in a traditional way, I'm afraid, because I'm not 100% sure if it's recyclable also. But to be honest, I'm afraid I don't know 100% the answer to this question. So
that's good. At least something to think about, right? So, okay. The next question is to Basil. Why does it seem difficult to adopt the circular economy model?
Yeah. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So I think I'll just add on to my previous response. I think it is difficult because we are trying to do away with the existing system or the linear system that we have. And unfortunately, as human beings as we are very much attached to this way of life. It is convenient, it is cheap, right? So that's the tough part. So once again, we need to just identify the best way to implement this project, right? So that when we have enough successful projects, right, then we can draw data from these successful projects or leverage on the data, then to influence the scaling up of the circular economy. Because one example I gave was that, for instance, with the biogas technology, right, for households, it doesn't make economic sense, right? Right. But for large scale facilities, it makes sense. But unfortunately, with that one too, the skilled labor isn't there to ensure that those systems are sustainable. But if we are able to get the right mix of parameters to have small projects that are successful, with time, everyone will get on board on the circular economy. But currently, it appears we want to change the way things are being done, which I think is the wrong approach to getting us on board the circular economy. Yep. So the main reason why it is difficult is that currently the system that we have are cheaper and it's convenient for us to maintain it that way. And people have already invested in these systems and they are making money. So unless it makes economic sense for them to change, they're not going to change it.
Okay, good answer. So I have always argued that the idea of sustainability or the circular economy involves self-sacrifice, personal sacrifices from individuals through to community, through to nations, right? So,
yep.
And then businesses, of course, because the businesses are the ones that we need to look at more in this context. So yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. So I see Konuruk, you have your hands up. I hope I pronounced your name rightly. If I didn't, sorry about that. You can ask your questions now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Andy. Is it Andy Ashua?
Anderson, yes.
Anderson, yes, please. All right. Please, I'd like to know regarding the BPAC. I realize it appears quite voluminous. Looking at the architecture of, let's say, Ghana, for instance.
Okay.
Is there a way probably we could compress the biogas so we could at least find a better way to, accommodate this in our homes in a situation where we want to, purchase these in our home? I don't know whether there's a way to compress the gas.
Okay. Yeah, Eduardo is here. Eduardo.
Yeah. Hi. Good question. Unfortunately, there is a way, but it requires a really sophisticated system and some that make it not worth it. So it is possible, but biogas is not made to do that, unfortunately. Otherwise, the biogas backpack wouldn't make sense. But yeah, no one has found a way to do this, to compress biogas in a way that really makes sense at the household level. So unfortunately, the biogas backpack is even if it's quite big and has a little bit of volume, is the best option we have at the moment for transporting biogas. I hope he answers the question.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. So I think an addition to his question is, do you also plan on having maybe half of that bag so that people who don't need like a lot can still get it and use it in their homes?
Yeah. So you mean if we could have like larger bags or
no, smaller bags? So let's say half of that size that we saw, so that if somebody doesn't want all that big one.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean the one that you saw earlier, which is it's big but it's quite light. It's less than 5 kilograms, and that only lasts for like 2 to 4 hours, depending on how you cook. So a smaller one wouldn't make sense. Half of that will be, yeah, just to cook your lunch, and then you will have to go back to the biogas producer every time to fill it in. So I think that size we found because it serves a family of 4 or 5 for a couple of days. And it's not enormous, so it can be also carried by a small person or a child, as we saw. And yeah, so that's the best measure we found. but of course, it's possible to make them smaller if you want.
All right, thanks, Eduardo. Anybody else from the audience who has a question? Anyone from YouTube who has a question? Please let us have them. If you're here, please raise your hands, unmute yourself, and ask your question. Any more questions for our presenters? Any more questions? Okay, I certainly have lots that are written down here. So I would come back to Basil. So Basil, this is one of the things that I've had a lot of people ask me. If individuals would like to be part of the whole circular economy model, okay, what would be some of your prescribed steps or approaches that people should use to be able to be part of that whole big structure, that whole big system? Because change obviously should start from individuals, where they can make all those daily decisions about change, and then ultimately we hope that it affects the whole system. So what would be your prescribed steps to achieve this?
First of all, I will say education. Yeah, take the time to read about circular economy. What exactly does it mean? And juxtapose the fundamental principles of circular economy with your personality as a person, your way of life, and see how it fits into your way of life. Because as I said earlier, our way of life and technologies that we use are very intertwined, right? So if you don't understand that concept, you can't just jump onto a new concept or a new phenomenon, right? So as a person, take your time to read our circular economy, understand the fundamental principle behind it, and evaluate your life as well, your personality. See if this thing makes sense for you, and identify aspects of your life that you think you can change, because it's all about we changing our way of life. When we change our way of life, businesses will follow. That's how it is, because for them, they want you to patronize their services. So if a group of people no longer do things in this particular way, business will adjust. Business will adjust. So I think for me, that's where it starts from. And apart from that too, let's take our time to identify business models that make economic sense. Because at the end of the day, anything you want to do, any new technology, whether it's sustainable or not, it must make economic sense for the investors. That's that's what it is. So apart from educating yourself, also educate yourself in terms of identifying the business opportunities in the circular economy space and investing in those small or the startup companies in that space. Yeah, for me, these are the two main things: educating yourself, and also identifying business opportunities in the circular economy space. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. So Eduardo, any last words for us?
Yeah, I just want to really thank everybody for for joining, and in particular, I had a lot of things to discuss. I want to discuss many things. Some of them I just touched upon. So if anybody has more questions, please get in touch. I have shared my email on the yeah, in the chat, just let me know. I know that it was a lot to take in. So for any questions, do not hesitate to contact me. And thank you, Anderson and David, for everybody for organizing this. It was actually really, really insightful also for me, and Basil for the presentation, like really, really interesting.
You're welcome. It's great to have you here. All right. So we will be moving to the next item that we have. I mean, it's a little bit over 2 hours here, just because we started a little bit late as well. So we are trying to balance it here. So we would move to the announcement and closing remarks by Gideon Deme, who is the project lead for AFRICER. And if there's any questions that we had that were not answered, we would be responding to you in an email. Okay, so Gideon, you ready? Let's take it.
Yeah, I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Anderson, for anchoring this program. It was a beautiful one. Thank you, Eduardo, for your presentation. It was nice hearing you. Thank you, Basil. Your presentation was beautiful. And to all the participants, we want to thank you for making our time to come here, how you could jump into joining the circular economic model, a program that was put up by Eco Amet Solutions in conjunction with AFRICER as one of its projects. After thanking you, maybe a bit of some announcements. Eco Amet Solutions is open to collaborate, especially on this AFRICER project. In one of the breakout rooms, David made it open if you are interested in joining any of the businesses to collaborate. You could maybe tip us. If you visit our website, you will see the AFRICER project there. There you will see the email address, africer@ecoametsolutions.com. Send us an email. Tell us how you want us to collaborate, and we will be happy to collaborate with you. Eduardo also is here to collaborate. You could see here he gave a tip about the oncoming collaborators project where you could be a distributor. This is an avenue for you to join the circular economy to try to also improve your economy. This is not the only webinar we are going to be holding. Very soon, we are still going to invite you for more interesting webinars to be able to have the circular economy holistically addressed. And the next one, we'll be looking at how to manage our plastic waste. All of us are witnesses to what COVID-19 have done. We've introduced a lot of plastic waste into our environment by the face masks we use and all this other materials that we have not been able to recycle. So it will be an opportunity for you to come learn how you can still, aside making biogas or aside diverting the waste from the landfill, how do you manage your plastic waste? How do you recycle? And what are some of the opportunities that we will be giving you in our subsequent webinars? On this note, I want to thank every team member who work hard behind the scene, the AFRICER team members, Felix, David, Anderson, and Basil, David, all of you are great. Thank you very much. And we hope to do more to give Africa more as we try to educate people more and try to also bring in the policy and the practice together. Thank you. And that's the end of this webinar session.
Yeah, thank you, Gideon. So actually, this is before the end. And there's a big question here that I think benefits all of us. And I think, Eduardo, if you could respond to this, then we will get going here. So the question goes, can the biogas, that's your back model, be effectively used in a building that is a block of flats with a central sewage system? And if yes, how is it by piping, or what method would you use? Is it by piping, or what method would you use to connect it?
Yeah, I was just reading the question. A little bit complex to answer right now, but yes, I mean, it's biogas backpack is not done for piping. Usually you have quite some short pipes. Usually the biogas backpack, it's, I don't know, 6 meters away from your stove, something like this. If you are looking for a quite high building, for example, where you need a lot of pipings, then you will need more pressure, and then I don't think it would be worth it anymore. So if you want, again, drop me an email to with more information regarding also this building, and then maybe we can find a solution. We're always very happy to find creative solutions to this stuff. So and maybe I can also put you in contact with our technical advisor, because I am not that technical, fortunately. But get in touch and we will find a solution.
Okay, thank you, Eduardo. Yeah, you are the business guy. Yeah. So, all right. And on this note, we would end today's webinar. Thank you all so much for staying. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your interactions. And thank you for sharing your knowledge. And I'm hopeful that you've learned something new, or you've deepened your knowledge about the issues of bio-waste as well as the circular economy. As Gideon has said, we will be reaching out to you very shortly about our next webinar. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
Anderson,
bye.
Just to tell them, if they enjoy this webinar, please try to invite your friend when next we reach out to you, so that we could reach out to a larger population.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Gideon. So please spread the message, spread the word.